Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dan Nestle Show. I'm your host, Dan Nestle. I've begun, over 100 shows that way, and it has been a little while, since I have recorded a new piece. My last episode with Sarah McElroy was recorded way back in July, and here we are finding ourselves on the end of October. And you might be wondering why I haven't had any episodes out lately. Fact is, I had planned to restart recording and to deliver incredible guests and great conversations as I'm wont to do, as I would like to continue to do, much sooner than now. I mean, I wanted to basically have a seamlessly continuing podcast. But I've taken the opportunity here, since last recording Sarah, to think about where I want the show to go. And now, don't get me wrong, this is not going to be one of those, I'm saying goodbye and, farewell to the Dan Nestle Show. That is not it at all. I am simply taking a little bit of a different approach to the show moving forward. And I will reveal that in weeks to come. I will let you know, though, or I will, hopefully put you at ease a little bit, if indeed this is what you like, that my show will continue to be my show. And it will feature me talking with a guest, and hopefully we'll get into, whatever the topic of conversation is, whatever their expertise is, and, dive into some realms of curiosity that, aren't necessarily visible or available on the well-trodden path. So, I bring extra value to everybody by asking great questions and by being curious. And I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to do that. The main difference will probably be a focus in the kinds of people that I'm bringing on the show. And by kinds of people, I mean certain professions, certain disciplines, rather than be sort of painting with a broad brush. I'm going to focus in on areas that I really feel need to be talked about for my profession and for the people in my profession into the future. So that is going to be, that's going to be where I'm going with the show. And you'll hear more about that in November. But the other reason why I haven't recorded lately is simply because I just haven't had the headspace to do it. I've been focused in other areas. I've been thinking about the world more. And I have been, I haven't been in the right frame of mind to do the best interviews I could possibly do for you, my listeners. And the reason I haven't been in the right frame of mind, and some of you know this, but the reason I haven't been in the right frame of mind is because personally, I've been devastated by the horrifying attack on Israel by Hamas and the resulting campaigns against Jews that are being waged through propaganda, through misinformation and disinformation, which, by the way, is primarily coming from, or almost entirely coming from, the ministries within Hamas and Iran. And it has really taken me aback. And I'll tell you why, because, I don't make much of my Jewishness. I'm not an observant Jew. I don't go to synagogue or shul more than on a very, very rare occasion. I mean, it just hasn't been a strong part of my life, at least the religion hasn't. But I've always had a connection to Israel. I have friends there, distant family. And part of me, as with many Jews, has been at ease in my Jewishness and has felt good about being Jewish because I know that we have a state, we have a place that we've been, we've been hoping for and asking for since the first diaspora from whence we originally came, from Israel, right? Anyway, the point is that I haven't been, the best Jew, I feel like. But the attacks, the horrors that I'm seeing, and the resulting or the continuing violence against Jews, the antisemitism that I thought we were well beyond, and I've known that antisemitism has been the most widely, I guess, the most common kind of hate crime in the United States, especially as a proportion of population. Jews are subject to more hate crime than any other group. And you can check the FBI statistics on that. You don't have to believe me. And yet antisemitism has always been kind of given short shrift. And now, over the last several weeks, to say that antisemitism is on the rise is the understatement of all understatements. This is the first time in my life, and I've had a half a century of life. It's the first time in my life that I am afraid, that I'm worried, that I fear for my children who aren't even technically Jewish, according to Jewish law. I fear for myself. I fear for my friends. I'm concerned about even going into Manhattan to visit with workmates or to go there for business or for a dinner or for whatever, because I've been seeing the protests and I've been seeing these lunatics and morally bankrupt, soulless cowards who are rallying against Jews. They're not rallying against Israel. They're rallying against Jews, and make no mistake about it. And I can't believe this is where we're at, So with that in mind, I just wanted to take this interlude. And for anybody out there who's wondering, what they can do about anti-Semitism or who may not believe me that anti-Semitism is on the rise, the only thing I want to do today, thinking that I haven't been the best Jew and understanding that there hasn't been a lot that I've been able to contribute. The one thing I can contribute is my time and my platform, as small as it may be, to spreading the word that antisemitism is real. It's horrifying. It is a lot worse than the media is letting you on to believe it is. It is not to be equivocated with other forms of hate. It is not to be grouped together with other forms of hate. To do so is to denigrate it. To do so is to downplay it. It is certainly not the other side of the coin of Islamophobia. Islamophobia is, despite the occasional horrible crime, and it is terrible, and Islamophobia is a terrible thing. But despite the occasional crime and sort of what we saw recently in Chicago, just a terrible story about that poor child, it really is not a thing when you compare it to anti-Semitism. I'm sorry. That's the fact. If you don't believe me, look at the statistics. Look at how disproportionately affected Jews are by these things, and just count the number of temples and synagogues that have been burned in recent weeks. Think about the number of Jewish establishments that have been defaced. Think about the number of Jews that have been chased around or hidden or forced into libraries or forced to take cover because they are in fear for their lives or in fear for harm due to the aggressive and increasingly violent demonstrations around them right here in the most tolerant, what we thought was the most tolerant country in the world. All of this is pointing to the fact that, anti-Semitism deserves your attention, deserves everybody's attention. It deserves the attention of our leadership, of our government, of corporations, to call it out separately as an important part of any D&I initiative. It has to be there. And I am just going to share with you all what anti-Semitism is, and leave you with this reading of the official definition of anti-Semitism from the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, also called IRA. You can find this on holocaustremembrance.com. And I can't do a better job of explaining it than to actually just read it straight to you. Okay? The working definition of anti-Semitism. In the spirit of the Stockholm Declaration that states, with humanity still scarred by anti-Semitism and xenophobia, the international community shares a solemn responsibility to fight those evils. The Committee on Anti-Semitism and Holocaust Denial called the IHRA plenary in Budapest 2015 to adopt the following working definition of anti-Semitism. And on the 26th of May 2016, the plenary in Bucharest decided to adopt the following non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. Here it is. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. That's the big kind of overall definition. To guide the IHRA in its work, the following examples may serve as illustrations. Manifestations might include the targeting of the State of Israel conceived as a Jewish collectivity. However, criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism frequently charges Jews with conspiring to harm humanity, and it is often used to blame Jews for why things go wrong. It is expressed in speech, writing, visual forms, and action, and employs sinister stereotypes and negative character traits. Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, and in the religious sphere could, taking into account the overall context, include, but are not limited to, calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. Denying the fact, scope, mechanisms, for example, gas chambers, or intentionality of the genocide of the Jewish people at the hands of National Socialist Germany and its supporters and accomplices during World War II, the Holocaust. Accusing Jews as a people, or Israel as a state, of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, for example, by claiming that the existence of the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Using the symbols and images associated with classic antisemitism, for example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel or Israelis. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis, and holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the state of Israel. Anti-Semitic acts are criminal when they are so defined by law. For example, denial of the Holocaust or distribution of anti-Semitic materials in some countries. Criminal acts are anti-Semitic when the targets of attacks, whether they are people or property, such as buildings, schools, places of worship, and cemeteries, are selected because they are, or perceived to be, Jewish or linked to Jews. Anti-Semitic discrimination is the denial to Jews of opportunities or services available to others and is illegal in many countries. And there you have it, folks, the working definition of anti-Semitism according to the Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, I should say. It's fairly clear. And I suggest that, if you have Jewish friends, if you have anybody who is suffering because of anti-Semitism, just keep that in mind and know that it's real. It's happening. More people than I ever thought or ever imagined are either actively anti-Semitic or complicit. And it's time for us to recognize that Jews everywhere, the 15 million of us, very, very small part of the population of the world, 15 million out of 7 or 8 billion, are under existential threat. And, you can take that however you will, but understand that I am one of those 15 million. And, I surely hope and pray that peace dawns much sooner rather than later. And I hope and pray for a world where this never has to be brought up again. But as we say, never again. And this is the least that I can do in my efforts to ensure that it never happens again. Thank you very much for listening.